Hi guys! Today we are going to talk about sew-in project tags. So those are the kinds of tags that you might find on the back of your shirt if you buy them in the store. But the ones that we're going to talk about are cool tags that are like handmade labels or things like that you can put onto your projects as you sew them. But before we get started, for those of you that are watching on YouTube or on our Facebook page, you can join our sewing group on Facebook by heading to sewwhatbox.com/group. Now that's just an easy URL that you can type into your web browser that's going to redirect you to our Facebook group where we get to meet other sewists, share tips, and finish projects, as well as questions. So join us there. We have tons of fun. Okay, so let's get started talking about our sew-in tags. Now, the specific type of tags that I'm going to be talking about today are these handmade labels. Now, these get sent on every one of our fabric bundles that go out to our members every month. And these are just a big strip of ribbon. So they look like this when they're untied. And, well, that's upside down. And I'm going to show you some ways that we can easily put these onto sewing projects so that it gives it more of a handmade flair. So there's two ways that you can put these onto your projects, and the most popular is to sew it onto the project like so. So this just makes it like a flat tag. But I also want to share with you guys a second way to do this, and it's personally my own favorite. So I did that on this bag, and if you open it up, you can see the tag inside. Now let me pull this out for you guys so you can see a little bit better. So basically, I made a tag that sticks off, more like the ones that you would see on clothes or items in the sewing store, or I mean in the clothing store or wherever you would buy already made things. So I like to do this because it's a lot easier than doing this. And I think it kind of looks cool that it looks like it's from a store until you look closer and it says handmade. Okay, so I'm going to show you guys how to do this really quick. Let me just change my camera angle for you guys so that I can show you what we're doing. Okay, so let's get started. The first one that I want to show you guys how to do is this type that is sewn on the top. Now, you're going to want to take the ribbon that you have, and we're going to cut it along these lines. See, you can see lines here in between each of these tags. You can cut along the lines and then top stitch this down, but what I like to do is roll under the raw edges so that they don't unravel. So for instance, you can see here on this one, let me see if I can pull this apart. I have this raw edge underneath here, and I rolled that under so that it won't unravel from my stitching. I like to use pinking shears. These are zigzag shaped scissors, and what this does is when it cuts at a zigzag, it will keep things from unraveling. If you don't have zigzag shaped scissors, you can just cut at a diagonal line. But what I'm going to do is cut halfway between these lines on either side of one of these tags. Let me cut this and I'll show you what I mean. So here you can see, maybe, that I cut halfway on along each tag on either side of this main handmade label that I want to be seen. Now what I'm going to do is fold those tabs that are extra back behind the handmade tag that I want to be seen, and that will hide those extra tabs that I cut off. And then I'm going to actually iron it so that it stays in place and I don't have to use a ton of pins. Now these labels that come with our project boxes are cotton, so you can use a hotter setting with your iron and you won't burn them down. But I do like to use a medium heat setting because they iron pretty easily. So here you can see that I've got this ironed over. If I flip this over for you, you can see that I've got these tabs that I've ironed back. And now what we're going to do is whatever piece of fabric that we want to put this on, so I'm just going to use this scrap to show you guys. We're going to put it where we want, and then you can either hand sew this down in place on the corners, or what I like to do is use my sewing machine with a zigzag stitch. So I'm going to zigzag down both long edges of this. You can also sew all the way around if you prefer, but here's what that looks like when you zigzag stitch down each side. So that is an easy way to do this. Now I'm going to show you how to do this type of a tag, like the one inside here that sticks out of a seam. Now this is pretty easy, but you have to remember to be doing this as you are making your project. You're going to want to pick what seam that you want it in or where you want it to come off of the project when you're done. And we're going to cut this label similar to how we cut the other one with a half of the label sticking off. But I like to see a whole label on each side of mine. Here, let me show you a little closer. So on this side, you can see a full handmade label. When I flip it over, you can see a whole nother one. Now, if you wanted to, you could make your tag smaller like this, so that you see half of the handmade label on this side and half on this side. So if you want to do it as large as mine, you're going to cut your piece like this. So you've got, let me see if I can get this in front of here. You've got two full handmade labels and then a half on each side. Now, if you wanted to do a smaller version, you could cut it like we did this first one, with a full handmade label and a half on each side. Now, if you're doing this version, you would then fold this in half, like so. But I'm going to show you with this one, and I'm just still going to fold this one in half. It's just a little bigger since it's a little bigger. Now, we're going to put this in our seam allowance. So these two pieces are going to be sewn together. I'm going to sew these together along the top side. So we're going to pin this folded piece along this top edge that I'm going to sew. And then I'm going to match this piece up with it. So I've got my folded label sandwiched in the center. Now I'm just going to stitch like normal along this top seam. And remember, this is normal stitching, so get your sewing machine set to a straight stitch. And then when you open this up, you'll see that you have a tag sticking off. So if you were going to do this, you could even use this as a little carrier loop or have it double like something like that on a project. For instance, I could have done this on this bag project. Instead of this handle here, I could have just made this loop, and that could have been what I hung the basket by. So I hope that that helps you, and I hope that that was exciting, and I would love to see pictures of how you guys use your handmade labels or tags in your projects. Plus, I'm sure that everybody else would love to see pictures of that as well. You know, inspiration for different ideas and stuff is a really fun part of the sewing community. So, if you want to share pictures of how you have used handmade labels or tags in projects in the past, go ahead and go to sewwhatbox.com/group and join our Facebook group and post photos in there of the projects and projects tags that you guys have put together and put on your projects. I'm so excited to see those. Also, if you're watching this live or even as a replay, go ahead and comment with any sewing questions or topics that you are curious about. Every Wednesday, I go live with little tips and tricks about sewing, and I'm curious what you want to learn about. I like to take those questions and make them into really fun Sewing Wednesday videos. So let me know. Go ahead and comment below or message the page. So what box? Okay, guys. Thank you so much for watching. I hope that you learned a lot, and I will talk to you next Wednesday.